said at the start of the show, one of my favorite people on the planet, Kameena Star, is joining us right now. She has so many credits and credentials. I'm so excited to talk to her and have her talk about some of them, but she's got a big book that's coming out in just a couple of months. And she's somebody I look up to. So Kameena, welcome back to Autism Live.
Thank you for having me back. I love this show.
You look gorgeous, by the way. You
Thank
look absolutely
you.
stunning. Purple, is that purple? It looks kind of purpley blue. It's a beautiful
It's
color.
blue. You know it's blue.
It looks kind of purpley on my screen, like purpley blue. But it's absolutely beautiful, like you. And I'm so excited to have you here. But I wasted so much of our time because I got sidetracked. Not wasted, but you know what I mean. So Kameena, let's talk really quickly about a bunch of things we got to cover. You got a book that's coming out in 2022. Tell us everything we need to know so we can pre-order.
It is so great to be here once again because don't feel like you wasted any time because I can tie this right in by telling you all that self-care for the caregiver is super important, and that's my niche. My name is Kameena Star, and I have a 19-year-old daughter on the spectrum with ASD and ADHD, and I also have a twin sister whose son has autism, who's 11 years old, and a plethora of other family and friends whom I love and support. So on April 2nd, we all know that day, World Autism Day, I'm going to be releasing a book, which is a Hay House Bible Press release. And it's called Black and Blue, The Inside Job to Healing and Autism Through Self-Care.
Wow.
The reason why I named this book The Inside Job to Healing Through Self-Care is because it's my mantra that self-care for the caregiver comes before any proper care for others. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people say this. I think they use the phrase a lot of times that you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, I mean, if the cup is completely empty, then you got nothing, then that's where I was in my life. So I want to celebrate everything and all of the momentous occasions to getting my daughter over the hill to 19 in this book, and also give tips and tricks and real life daily methods that other families can use to start their self-care and practice consistency.
I don't know if everybody realizes who's watching, but Hay House is the top. Like if you have, I'm serious. Like I want to be you when I grow up, Kameena. To have a book published from Hay House is the highest compliment you can ever get in anything that has to do with self-care improvement, because it's Louise Hay who I like, honestly, I would pass out if I ever got to meet Louise Hay. So I think it's a very telling feature of your book that it's coming out from Hay House. It says everything that you need to know, that this is a book you've got to have. I also love, Kameena, that we hear a lot from moms who have sons, and we have not over the years historically heard a lot from moms who have daughters. So to hear you talking about this very important topic about self-care, which I don't know if you saw at the beginning, I said, look, like I think a lot of us have a problem with it. It seems like I laughed. I was like, self-care, like, oh yeah, that's somewhere, some country I want to visit sometime. Right. But I think it's the important topic, and that it's being talked about from a mom of a daughter, I think just adds to it. So I love this, and I love you. So April 2nd, World Autism Awareness Day. That's coming out from Hay House. When do we get to pre-order it?
You can start to pre-order probably the month before. I don't want to quote the dates and everything, but March 2nd, 2022, be looking for that. And then in April, we'll be able to have it full out. And it's a funny thing that you should say this. Now, Louise Hay has passed away, and I did have a chance to go to her office. I had a chance to go to her office after that point and go into that office. And I want to share with you that she was an artist. She painted.
Oh my gosh.
Had lots of paintings and everything. And I also want to share with you that here's a little story that ties into that. Reed Tracy, who is over the Hay House Company, when I first came to him about 3 years ago and I presented him with this book, do you know what he told me?
What did he tell you?
He said I needed to use the tips in my own book.
Oh,
So
well.
you want to be with Hay House, but it's tough.
All
Okay,
right.
they don't play. So the whole point of this exercise was to care for yourself before you care for others. And even I had to use the tips in that book to be able to share with you all today. And I also wanted to share that because Louise Hay was a painter and all of the art, this is another way. I just wanted to give that as one example of self-care. Now look at everything that she's done for this world by creating
Mm.
a thing, but she still found the time to do what she loved, which was paint, in addition to give back and everything. And I think that's just one example of one good way that people don't even think that that's self-care, but it is. It
I
is. So
didn't
we
know
all
that
can.
Louise. Yeah, I didn't know that Louise had passed, and I turned for just a second because I have very few books on my bookshelf behind me, and I thought that I was going to be able to pull out a Louise Hay book, but it's by my bedside. That's why it's not there.
That's
That's Louise Hay. I didn't realize she'd passed. I'll meet her on the other side, hopefully.
on the other side.
Uh, That's right. So,
Yes.
but Kameena, you not only have the book that's coming out, you talk to us about your show and how we can tune in what's happening with your show.
Do I get to make this major announcement that I'm very, very happy about?
Okay. All
I
right, tell
I
me.
Okay, I started a show called Healing Self Care. You can look it up on YouTube right now. There's some old episodes, and I started out at the wonderful It Isn't Family Center, but have found a new home for this show. Do I get to say it, Shannon?
If it's what I think, you got to pause for just a
I got to
second.
pause. Okay,
But
I won't say.
let me say that we are. If you're talking about us, we've been talking to Kameena about her joining us here for a little bit. Is that what you're talking about?
I am. I'm talking
Okay.
about that in addition to all of my illustrious panels of where you can find, and you can just search Kameena Star and it'll pop up in any keyword search. You'll see the episodes that I already have. I am continuing the show because this book was not enough. I got the 12 chapters, and then we had to shut down the world. We went from autism being a epidemic to a worldwide pandemic. And I had to write a chapter on that. And I get excited when I talk about the end as well, when I included a chapter on Black Lives Matter, since I happens to be a Black lady with a Black child, with a Black daughter. So I'm very super excited about that. And I am continuing my show, Healing Self Care, to give weekly tips to inspire parents to really take better care of themselves. That way they can start small and build up to larger steps.
Well, and let me for our part say that we are trying to create a place where there is a home for Kameena here. We very much want her to be here. But please write in and say if that's something that, because then that helps me to create the home for her. Tell us if that's a show that you'd be watching, because we think that you definitely need it, but let us know if that's something that you really love. And we're trying to create the reality in which Kameena can be here and join us. But in the meantime, there are episodes they can be watching on YouTube, correct, Kameena?
Yes, and there'll be continuous episodes coming at around January 1st. So as you can see, January 1st, 2022 is the year that I reclaim the healing for this community and the autism community at large. I'm taking care of a lot of things behind the scenes right now to be able to present to you in January all the way through April something about autism. You know how last year we kind of got missed, and there was kind of like, oh, we didn't, we weren't
Yeah.
thought about as much because there was a lot of things going on, even to where they were lighting up blue lights over here in Burbank that wasn't for autism. So
Oh,
on
really?
April 2nd, I want to reclaim that and make sure that we light it up blue again, and make sure that we build up self-care for ourselves and our communities
Right.
and those who are aging to become adults, because now you and I, Shannon, we have young adult children. So it's all
Yes.
about, I'm closing it out strong with the young years and hitting it live and in person in the community for our adults.
I love that about you. Now, you mentioned that Louise Hay was an artist, which I did not know.
Art.
You also are an artist that people may not know.
I,
That,
I
but it almost is like it makes perfect sense because you have this energy about you. You are also a stellar singer, having performed all around the world. Talk to us a little bit about Kameena Star, the musician, the singer, the performer.
so Kameena Star as a performer is the part of myself that I reclaimed from the part that I gave up to raise my
Mhm,
daughter. And I don't
mhm.
know who that makes sense to, but I'm talking to somebody when I say I gave up a lot of years of my own dream and myself because autism had me. We were losing. I had to re-educate myself and pump myself along the way to know that I could have all of these energies live in the same place. And so I spent the greater part of 10 years of my daughter's life, young life, recording songs that no one heard
Mm.
because because I was afraid to use my voice and scared. So now that we have passed this pandemic life, I am so determined to heal and to show others how to heal that I'm reclaiming though my music for myself and releasing 3 songs along with my book this year. It was not enough. The show was not enough. It's like, you know what, if I'm going to do it, it's like I if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it all and put all of me out there. I'm gonna be as weird and as challenging and as healing and as crazy and as whatever. And I'm just gonna put that all out there and try to inspire some other moms, dads, caregivers, parents, siblings to really just rise up and reclaim their healing as well.
I love that. And of course, that sings to me as well. I think a lot of people can relate to this. I just was saying to somebody the other day, who is a parent of neurotypical children, and they were saying, I've had to put my career, my thing that I'm driven for on hold because I need to be a dad to these kids. And I said to them, I said, I understand this completely, that on the day when we realized, okay, our son needed a lot of help and support, I said, I'm going to take my professional life and I'm going to put it right over here. It's going to sit on this
Yeah.
shelf and I'm going to put all the energy that I had for that into this. I don't regret that. I don't regret it. I kept some things going so that I stayed sane, and I took notes and remembered things and said, I will use this somehow. How I journaled so that I would remember, but I focused on helping our son. And then years later, I realized my son didn't really know me, that he hadn't met that part of myself. So I reclaimed that, as you say, and I started doing my one woman show, the Autism Monologues, which my son got to come to.
Which was awesome.
Well, and it was a watershed moment for us where I feel like because my son said to me one time, we were on a plane and he said, Mom, you're not funny. You need to stop trying to be funny. You're not funny. And I was like, oh, mister.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
like, I'm the funniest person you've ever met. And he was like, but you're not. And for a year, it was like, I have to be myself
Yes.
and reclaim, because I used to do stand up. I was like, I have to reclaim that part of myself so my child knows me, not just as the caregiver.
And
So
it takes courage to do that. You should
oh,
really
oh,
congratulate yourself. And that's part of self care right there. You congratulate yourself for taking the courage to having the courage to actually do that. Because some of us swallow that and then we swallow it whole. And then even spiritually, it bubbles up and we gain weight. We pack it on because all of that is things that we haven't shedded. We haven't healed. We haven't shed. We haven't healed from. And all of those things are a part of your meaning Shannon's and Kameena's self-care before you get to that child.
yeah,
You see how that was a trigger for you. You're like, what do you mean I'm not funny? I spent all these years. What do you mean?
yeah,
That
yeah,
part right there is because you had ignored that part of yourself.
yeah,
That's what I did. That's why I made the book.
yeah.
And this is exactly what I'm encouraging parents and other family members to do so that they don't swallow that. You know what I'm saying?
I
And that
do.
they're that out.
In fact, what really made us cross over was that I had a fibroid, I had a fibroid tumor, and I had to be taken out. And when I told a girlfriend about it, and I said, "Oh, I've got this fibroid. I don't know why. They say just sometimes your uterus, And she said, "Oh no, honey, that is unclaimed creativity." Um,
Unclaimed creativity.
and she
And
said,
that's
"You
the
better."
biggest, I think the biggest tip of self-care right now is, where was your creativity? Go back to the toy conversation that Shannon was just having and play with some of those toys yourself. Remember where your creativity is. Nurture your inner child. Toys couldn't be a better time for a
Yeah.
festival of toys, because I know I'll be finding myself as Rubik's Cube or something to do with my hands so that I'm not picking my face. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Anxiety be like, oh my God, I'm worried about everything. Chip, 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 and a Rubik's Cube. You know
Oh,
what I
I've got a bet. I've got the new Rubik's cube for you this year. Uh,
then I'm gonna get that.
Okay, can I tell you? I'm giving away all the secrets. This year, it's something called Shishibu. If you look it up, you're going to lose your mind. It is the new Rubik's Cube. It's better than Rubik's Cube, Shishibo, and all of our kids are going to love it.
Well, they had that Netflix special too with, I mean, yeah, honestly, we can go on
Yes.
and on about how I've always just adored adults with autism as well. I see them as people. I see them as smart people. I see them as people that I learn from. And it's never a sway of topic because I represent them just as well. And I got hooked on this YouTube, this Netflix thing. It was crazy. So anyway,
About the kid
Rubik's
with the
Cube.
Rubik's Cube, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, I love that. All right, we're running out of time because we
Yeah.
got so much to talk about. We have to
So
talk a little bit about the study that you are a pivotal part of right now, and I'm so grateful that you included me in it. But talk to us about the USC TRUST study because I'm so impressed with you.
I want to break it down in layman's terms. I see that you have gotten some. I love that you do this jargon of the day. Ooh,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
hug you through the screen
All right. Uh,
for that. And so the trust study that I'm taking a part in is USC, and what it boils down to is we are going to begin together for a portion of about 2 years to just develop what we think is the proper way that we can talk to researchers and families and other people to educate them on how to properly take place in research first, but then also tell them about how we feel, what the autistic voice is about, underrepresented communities. And we're talking about rural communities, regardless of color, if they're underserved. We are getting to the heart of the matters of how can those people be served by the research community and how they can help with specifically sensory issues.
Yeah, I found this really interesting, and I've had the great fortune to participate a little bit over the last couple of months, and the conversations, just listen, getting together, and there are different stakeholders. So I'm part of one that's just for caregivers, parents, and caregivers,
Yeah,
but
I
there are
guess I
other
should
ones.
have said I'm the co-lead of the family and caregiver stakeholder group, which
But the,
Shannon and I are a part of.
Well, but you're amazing because you're an amazing leader and you get the conversation going and you just it's I'm so impressed with you and the work that you're doing. But we should make sure that everybody knows that there are different groups of stakeholders. So there are stakeholders that are just people who are on the spectrum, and then there are stakeholders that are just caregivers, and then there are research professionals and people working in the field. It's
That
being done really well.
Thank you for backing me up on that. The whole purpose of this is to take those three stakeholder groups. There's actually four because there's a community stakeholder group as well.
Right.
So, what we do is we get real representatives from those four stakeholder groups: families, researchers, caregivers, and people on the spectrum who
Yes.
prefer to be called autistics in their own right, get together at the table and talk about what research they would like to see done, what affects them as far as sensory issues, and sensory issues like that might boil down to everyday subjects like food sensitivities or like community issues like taking the bus or anything. So we're trying to make that be real towards the end goals of being adults and everything. And that's just my part, and that's Shannon and I's part for the family and caregivers. But I'm so glad that you're backing me up here because it's so many subjects. I lose myself sometimes.
But it's incredible. I think it's what we've all been asking for a long time, is that if researchers talk to the community and said, what is it you want and need? And that one person's story is not every person's story. And we've learned that in our group that, some caregivers want one
Nothing
thing and
for us,
some.
but without us.
Well,
Period.
yes, and that's the other part of it, is that knowing that you have a group of stakeholders that are, self advocates, that are able to communicate their wants, wishes, and needs in
Yes.
terms of research. I think it's really important, because I find that it tends to be, it's funny, we talked about before, all or nothing, that sometimes they will just go and they will just ask self advocates. I think that that's valid. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But sometimes the voice of a 19-year-old or a 29-year-old or a 39-year-old on the spectrum is going to address something in a particular way that doesn't address the needs of a 3-year-old, right?
Yes.
And so, a lot of us always used to say, I am my child's voice until my child has a voice of their own. And by that, we meant not just vocal voice, but an ability to communicate their needs. So I love that you guys are including one group that's just the caregivers, another group that are individuals on the spectrum, and then the third group, well, the four groups all together. I think it's all those voices all together to be
And
served
that's
properly.
and that's really what we want to do at the end of the day for kids who are going to grow up. We want to think past. We want to be that outer ring parent, that outer ring group of people who want to think past just what we're seeing today on to 36, on to 45, and start to try to develop something for them, because as we all know, I mean, I don't want to say there's nothing because I don't know what all there is, but I can say that there's not a lot. So
Right.
at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, well, at least my own thing is I'm trying to make sure that these last 20 years really counts for those who don't have to go through what I went through. I don't want them to ever go through that. I want to give them the information and I want to share the stories. That's what my book, my show, my songs, and this study is all about: sharing my stories and my family stories, the people that I support, to
Yeah.
give that same knowledge through those stories to other parents who may be able to use them
Yeah.
to live a better quality of life.
Absolutely. And you've been widely acknowledged for years as being a true expert and a voice in the community, talking about transitioning from, being a tween, through the teen years up into adulthood. And you've been living it. You've been not
Living.
only sharing it, but you've been living it. And I think you're a great example. We want to talk with you more about that, but we're basically out of time here. But that means you just have to come back. Uh,
Oh,
so there we go. But
okay.
want to encourage people, if people want to know more about you, Kameena, where do we direct them to go for right now? They certainly can check out your shows on
YouTube.
YouTube.
There is a list. You can do a keyword search for Kameena Star, YouTube, Instagram. Any of those places are really popular right now until my launch in January, where you'll be able to have more direct links. So I want to make sure that you can just do a keyword search and you can get to me in whatever platform that you're actually on. What basically on the one
I
you're on
love
now.
that. I love that one of our viewers wrote in, because they said at the start of the show, Kamina, that they have a friend who's on the spectrum that they
Uh-huh.
work with, and they had to kind of intervene earlier. And they said, and talk about sensory issues, because this is really what this group is, that the study is talking about, is how do we do research on sensory? What are the questions that we want answered? What would be helpful to us? So their friend said at work the other day, my feet are trapped in my shoes. And they said, I had to go back and explain this. Our managers were confused. So I told them she needs to feel the floor and the vibrations because she's understimulated. But this is the kind of conversation, this is the level of conversation that we all need to get to. I always think about Stephen Shore, Dr. Stephen Shore, who is the person who said, when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And Dr. Shore is a professor who teaches at Adelphi University. And he's been teaching there, he's got to be, teaching there for at least 20 years. So, think back, because we're still trying to get here. But
Mhm.
he went in and said, I want to teach, I'm highly qualified, I want to teach, but fluorescent lights make my eyes go buggy. So I need to come in and wear a baseball hat. And if I can wear a baseball hat, I can teach the pants off of this. He's an award-winning professor. And Adelphi understood and said, wear the baseball hat. 20 years ago, I was a college professor, and I can tell you, they weren't allowing you to wear baseball hats. They were like, that's not appropriate. That's not whatever, some rigid rule. Just like probably at this place, they're telling somebody you have to leave your shoes on. But having somebody who can translate about a sensory issue, kind of an amazing thing. It takes a village.
Takes a village, and we're a part of it.
That's right. And proud members of it.
Proud.
So Kameena is awesome. I hope that I'm going to be able, I just got to finish, dotting some T's here. I hope that I'm going to be able to make a place home here that will make Kameena happy. Working on that.
I will be here for you no matter what you ever do. I love you.
Oh, well, I love you back. I think that you're amazing. You have no idea what the nice things I say about you behind your back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there we go. But anyway, please check out Kameena's stuff. And I know many of you had written in and said you definitely would love to see her show here. So we're going to see what we can't make happen. But that's all the time we have for today. In fact, we've already gone over a minute. I want to say that tomorrow is Temple Grandin Tuesday. We're airing one of our best of episodes with Temple Grandin. You're not going to want to miss it. We're back live with Dr. Grampy Shea on Wednesday. So be sending in your questions for her. But definitely check out Kameena's show. Look at all of her social media stuff. Hear her sing. The woman is an angel. And hopefully you'll get to see more of her. But we'll be back tomorrow with Temple Grandin Tuesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Thank you, Kameena, and bye-bye for now. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.